I guess the devil doesn't want this recorded today, which kind of makes me want to record it. I find it interesting. We can be attributed, and it could be just pure coincidence, just the way God laid it out, but sometimes some messages, I've got to confess, they're harder than others to get recorded, they're harder than others to get uploaded, they're harder than others to be made public, and that always makes me wonder. The title I have today, Genesis 1, Genesis chapter 1. It's very hard to find. It's right in the very front. Genesis 1:31. The title I have today is The God of Creation. And it actually, what I'm talking about ties into that little schmeal there that I threw you right at the beginning. The God of Creation. Genesis 1:31, it says, "And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day." I want you to consider this today. I want you to consider that God saw everything that he had made, and it was not just good, it was very good. It entailed perfection. I want to speak of something that I see in this verse today. I want to talk to you about something that really strikes at the very heart of secular or worldly belief today. And I want to frame it with this verse. You see, many times I have been told that there is no evidence out yonder, so to speak, of God or a God of any sort. And if a God of any sort exists, that we should see that being or beings' involvement in our world. We should see this. And I can say confidently that we in Scripture have an accurate record of the Jewish Christian God, and we see him involve himself in the affairs of humanity. We see himself actively involved in creation. It has nothing to do with lack of evidence. It has everything to do with willful blindness. Whenever you tell me that you cannot see any evidence of God in the world around you, you're telling me that you have a microscope, a pair of binoculars, and a telescope, and you put the lens caps on them. Because I'm going to tell you that when I look at creation, I see design. When I look at creation, I see the handiwork of God. When I see the world around me, I see things that cannot be unless someone much smarter than me, much infinitely more powerful than me, than I see there is someone that has made this and I need to find them. In our Bible, we see these things, that God made the world in 6 days and he rested on the seventh. People tell me that it is impossible for God, you can't make the world in 6 days. No, I can't. Neither can you. Surprise. Let me throw out something here. It is impossible to make a world in 6 days. It is also impossible for nothing to become something to organize itself, and then after it organizes itself, to become increasingly more complex until, voila, here we are, surprise. Now you tell me, both of those notions are ridiculous on face value from a human standpoint. Either one of those arguments doesn't make any sense, because we don't see God. Angels have seen God. We have never seen nothing. You want to tie your brain in a knot, you consider what nothing is. You can't arrive at an accurate definition of what nothing is, because nothing is nothing. Well, then it would be black. No, it wouldn't, because black is a color, so there would be something there. If you observe it, it would be black. Well, then there would be something. That would be a void. Well, a void is nothing. No, a void is a void. Consider well what I say. It is not a matter of which of those are goofy at face value, because from a human standpoint, from the standpoint of someone walking down the street that's as lost as a ball in tall grass and headed for hell, they don't believe in God. Most of the time they believe in secular evolution. They believe that we came from dirt. Okay, I'm asking you, not which of those is not ridiculous from a lost person's point of view. I'm asking you, which of those makes more sense? If you start with the basic question, is there a God, rather than the denial of any sort of deity, and whatever left is what you have to work with. If you invoke the possibility of a creator, then I'm going to tell you that the possibility of a creator creating the complexity and the world that we see makes much more sense than nothing becoming something. And I'm going to tell you all, I've spent a lifetime cutting down trees, chasing cows around, baling hay, driving trucks and tractors and equipment, and I've had all kinds of things go knock, 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 boom. I have never looked at an engine sitting in pieces on a shop floor and on a bench and in an engine bay and blinked and it reassembled itself. Trust me, it's not. I wish it would happen. I really wish that would happen. I have never once fallen on a very delicate plastic piece of something essential for the operation of the equipment that I was working on, broke it to smithereens because I'm fat, and it miraculously reassembled itself and put itself on whatever I'm working on. It doesn't happen. Okay? If you believe that humanity, that anything came about by chance, that is organized, that has structure, definition, that can be defined, then you have a problem. You go get yourself a watch, one of the nice old tiny ones with the springs and the little gears and the little jewels in it and everything. You go home, set that thing in a metal kettle, preferably a cast iron or aluminum one. Then you get yourself a hammer and you whack that thing several times. I mean, whack it good. Just whack, whack, whack. Okay? I don't want nothing left but charnel bits and bits of glass. Now you throw that in a box and you shake that box. Now, you keep shaking that box till that watch reassembles itself. What can't happen? Okay, and you're telling me that I came from random chance. I'm going to suggest something today that most people will find absolutely radical, insane, and that is that the lack of evidence for God in humanity's eyes is evidence of his existence. I want you to consider our opening passage. You might find it strange when you consider the path that we've started down, but this is very much in line with my reasoning. You see, it says that what God had made was not just good, it was very good. It was perfection. And let's consider what perfection is. Something that is perfect will function as it is intended to for as long as that is intended to, without any unintended external intervention. In other words, if something is perfect, you flip the switch on it, you walk away for the time allotted that you had designed this thing to work for, and you don't look back at it. There is no need to adjust it. There's no need to tinker with it. There's no need to refine the design to make it work better. It is simply made. It operates exactly the way that it should, and you don't have to go back and do anything to it. Something that I, by the way, have never achieved, and I have glued, wired, and taped a lot of things together. Let's look at your vehicle. You heard me talk about exhaust valves this morning. Did y'all ever think you'd get a mechanic lesson in the middle of the church? Anybody here know what an exhaust valve is now? That would be a negatory Ghost Rider? Okay. Let's look at your vehicle, though, all joking aside. If you drive it, and every aspect of your vehicle functions the way that it was intended to, and there are no unexpected failures, there are no unexpected faults, we can say legitimately that your vehicle is what? It is perfect. It is doing exactly what it should, how it should. It can be said to be perfect in that regard. Now, we know that there is sin in this world, and we know that this is a fallen world. But that does not remove the perfection inherent to it, because it functions as designed. This world functions. I've heard people say, well, this is a dysfunctional world. No, it's not a dysfunctional world. Dysfunctional means it would fall apart. No, this world is doing exactly what it should. It is functioning exactly as it was designed to function. It is doing exactly what God wills it to do. It is going exactly the way God wills it to go, and it is ticking its way from start to finish on the exact course laid out for it in the beginning. You heard me do that Wednesday. Ain't that an annoying noise? But it is ticking its way, bit, 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 every second, for 1 second closer to the return of our Lord. This, whatever is going on in the Middle East, I see people jump up and down, it needed done, it needed done. Okay, I've seen people jump up and down, we're starting a war, we're going to have World War III, he's an idiot. I'm going to argue probably both of them are right, but I'm going to tell everybody here something today that'll shock you. It is going exactly the way that God had it laid out from the beginning. God is in control of it. God is in control of the end of it. And God laid this out from the beginning, and it is happening for His purposes, His glory, His honor. And God uses not just sinful men. God uses lost men. God uses reprobate men. God uses human beings to accomplish His goals and His will. I can assure you that if we fire off World War III, that God had World War III planned. I can assure you that if everybody comes home today and everything is just fine and nothing ever comes again, we have peace in the Middle East forever. We are not. But were that to happen, you know who it would be that brought that about? God. And that's something I am going to say. I hear all the time, well, this leader did this leader did that, this leader did something else. No, God brought it to pass. That doesn't remove our agency, by the way, but God is the one that's in control. God is the one that brings these things to pass, and all these things are happening because God has laid it out from beginning to end. You see, in what we see in the world today, we see an evidence for God that is far too often dismissed. It's ignored. There's no attention paid to it. Consider what I'm saying. You see, let's look at the extreme opposite. That which we commonly call a miracle. We talk about all the time, a miracle this, miracle that. You see, if the world is not perfectly designed, then we would have a need for constant correction. Every little bit, God would have to be steered a little left, steered a little right. You see what I'm saying? He would have to intervene constantly. Whoops, I got a little bit. My brother-in-law has a boat. He's had several boats. He made the mistake of giving me the steering wheel, the helm, to his boat one day in a narrow-ish channel. When I say narrow-ish, it was probably 10 boats wide, but I'd never driven a boat. I learned something about boats. You turn that steering wheel, nothing happened. So you turn the steering wheel more, and all of a sudden the boat goes, hang a right. And then you go, and you whip it back to the left because the boat now is pointed for other boats. And turns out boats are expensive. And nothing happens. And you turn it further, and suddenly the boat goes, hang a left. And you're headed for somebody else's boat. Number one, I don't want a boat. That cured me. Okay, when I turn the steering wheel, I want something to happen. Okay, when I turn the steering wheel and nothing happens on something I'm operating, I assume something fell off of it. Nothing fell off this boat. It turns out there's a lag time. You turn the steering wheel and it takes a minute for things to catch up. I don't want to wait a minute. When I turn the steering wheel, I want the boat to turn. My boat driving career lasted about 10 seconds. It's like, I've got this. I'm like, thank you. Okay, no boats for me. I'm a landlubber. That is literally what people think about when they think about God. Well, you know, we need a miracle. No, we don't need miracles. No, miracles do happen. But consider, we live in a world that doesn't need a constant course correction. We live in a world where the sun comes up and follows a cycle. We can track. Every day you can tell where the sun is going to come up or go down. They've tracked it ad nauseum and ad infinitum. We know when the moon is going to come up, when it's going to go down. We know where. We know when the tides are going to come in. We know when the tides are going to come out. Here is a surprise for you all. Gravity has a 100% success rate. Well, Mike, you're being stupid. No, I'm being serious. Gravity has a 100% success rate. I have never floated off this planet, not once. Mike, that's stupid. No, that's not stupid. We are standing on the side of a ball of rock, turning thousands of miles an hour, flying through space going thousands of miles an hour, around a ginormous thermonuclear explosion that's also going thousands of miles an hour, in a solar system that is whizzing around, designed perfectly, by the way, because the asteroid belt, the big gas giants in the outer part of the solar system, guess what they do? They catch all the nasty stuff in their gravity, and that asteroid belt acts like a shield, and it stops all the stuff from whacking us that would make us all dead planet-wide. And you tell me you can't see evidence for God. You know, look. You see? Our God knew and laid out this world from the beginning to the end without need for external action to keep the machinery running and operating properly. I would suggest that a God that has to constantly fix the plot and the make of his creation from outside that creation is not much of a God. That's kind of a gutless God right there. If he makes it, well, I got to make it again. Well, I got to make it again. Well, I got to make it again. Man, this is the third time around. When am I going to get this right? That's not God. That's me on Tuesday. In fact, when we see what we would call a miracle, it is almost always done in a way that is in harmony with this world and even contributes to its eventual end and our being with our Lord Jesus. Take the parting of the Red Sea. We know that Moses didn't part the Red Sea. God parted the Red Sea. How did he part the Red Sea? There was a wind. And in that use, I see a natural part of this world used to bring about an unnatural occurrence. Not only that, but I see the results of that miracle down through history to this very day. And the results of the parting of the Red Sea are folded into this world's history, rather than conflicting with it. We live in the world that we live in today because of the parting of the Red Sea. It was not a course correction that brought about unintended consequences down through history and thus a cascade of errors afterwards. It was a calculated move by our great God at a specific moment for a specific reason, both of which were planned into creation from the beginning and for the benefit of the Creator as well as the created. How was the Creator benefited? What did he say to Pharaoh? For this purpose have I raised thee up. And for the benefit of the creation, the Jews survived. Let's reason together. Why would a God capable of perfection create a world wherein there was a need for constant revealing of his or herself to maintain that creation? It doesn't make any sense. If God has to show up every 6 months or every 7 months and fix something, that's not much of a God, because he didn't know what he was doing. We live in a creation that works perfectly. God doesn't have to pop in and out constantly having to fix doors and windows that leak and put shingles on the roof. After all, I want you to think about this. If I make my if I fabricate something, fabricable something is what I like to say in my shop, and I constantly have to bring it back in and meddle with it, I can't say I did a very good job of designing it or building it. So our God, the God, has no need for this. If you ask God how something works, He doesn't have to think about it. He doesn't even have to, how did that? Let me think. It's there. God knows everything. He knows everything instantly. He doesn't have to think about something. He simply knows. The fact that we don't see His constant interference is an indicator of His intelligence and His power. It is not an indication or a lack of His existence. And I would suggest that it goes even deeper than what I've already covered. I want you to consider. For years, I was taught in school that evolution had to work with whatever mutation happened by chance, and that anything beneficial had to be built off what came before. And in that way, any living organism could be said to be cobbled together from previous mutations. In other words, we're just all mutants. Then I studied engineering a little bit, not as a science, not as a profession, but as a lay person with an interest in what it represented and what it shows in my world. And to my surprise, what biologists call cobbled together and random was in fact perfectly engineered from a material and an operational point of view. I want you to think about that. See, when you listen to a biologist, they say, well, you know, this doesn't make any sense. It had to be a result of something else, and it doesn't work perfectly, but it works. It was what nature had to work with those mutations. Then you study engineering, and when you study engineering, suddenly you're going, wow. I mean, wow. Birds' bones are hollow. Are they hollow? If you give a bird solid bones, there's going to be a problem. You're going to be too heavy to fly. We make white blood cells in our bones. As a matter of fact, I have to think about it. I think we make blood cells as a whole in our bones. I have to look that up. I've forgotten now. I did know that. At any rate, when it's all said and done, now birds have a problem. Because what makes blood cells of whatever type in our bones, well, they have hollow bones. There's nothing in there. They have mechanisms in their bodies that do the exact same thing. Yeah. I've heard it said so many times it makes my head hurt. That our eyes evolved from simple eyes. Can't possibly do that. Why not? Well, my eyes, I'm nearsighted, but think about it, my eyes are perfectly fine for nearsight. Glasses let me see you all, frankly. How are you going to make my eyes simpler? Are you going to take a lens out of it? Well, if I take a lens out of it, I can't focus. And all the gooey stuff's going to run out. That ain't going to work. Well, you could, you've got this little thing in the back. The nerve from your brain goes right and lands in the center of the retina in your eye where everything works. I've heard people say, well, that's a deficiency right there, because no, it turns out that is exactly the most efficient way for that thing to work. When you look at it from an engineering standpoint, it is perfect. Your balance, you know what causes you to have your balance? There is a little snail shell thing inside your ear, and it's got fluid in it, and it's got some hairs and a little pebble. And which of those little hairs are bent tells you whether you're right side up, upside down, or whatever. That's what vertigo is whenever that thing malfunctions. and what your eyes and what it tells you send conflicting signals. That's coincidental. You see, not sufficient for whatever the organism is or was doing, like evolution says, but perfect for the intended purpose and the material used. You know, a woodpecker's tongue wraps around the back of his head. You know why? Not only is it his tongue, it literally stops him from rattling his brains and his eyeballs out whenever he's beating on a piece of wood. It's there for a reason. There's a proverb that I'm fond of using. It's called, I say it all the time, the best is the enemy of good enough. If evolution was true, good enough would be the norm, not perfection, because mutation and change would always deform that which was perfect into some variation of good enough. And instead, we see perfection in design for function. My eyes function as they should. My digestive tract functions as it should, in case you hadn't noticed. My hair, my beard functions as it should. My voice, my brain, before I whacked it 4 or 5 times, functioned as it should. This building functions as it should. I see perfection. I see DNA in the individual cell put forth as proof of evolution, the argument being that these evolved and we eventually came into being. I see no such thing. I see a creator who designed a system by which life could survive, replicate, reproduce, and I would say even thrive. Not only this, but I see a system that is capable of scale, that it's able to deal with single-celled life, multicellular life, and multi-system multicellular life, such as us, beings with different bodily systems and many cells. You see, Romans 1:18, I want you to think about this. For the wrath of God, you asked this morning if God would be angry. I think this answers it. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. They are visible because I can see what is visible. You can't look at the world around you and tell me there is no God unless you don't want there to be a God. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations. What do we see today? If you do away with God, who's top on the ladder then? If we do away with God, who is the top of the totem pole? Us. We're God. Literally, that's what, and you'll hear it denied, but that is how modern humanity sees themselves. They are God to them. They are their own gods. Whereas we worship the God, we know the God. And their foolish heart was darkened, professing themselves wise, they became fools. Okay, when you tell me that we came from monkeys, I think you're a fool. And changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. How many times have you all seen in your life these ridiculous statues of this God, that God, something else, and it's like a human's body or part of a human's body, and it's got animal heads and claws and everything else? There it was. Listener, you can see the world, and the world is your condemnation, because if you do not see the world and seek the creator of it and his will for you, you have condemned yourself. I have condemned myself. I can see God in creation. I see his handiwork. I have an obligation to seek him. Today we are told that order can come from chaos, when every example in reality shows the opposite. And I'll give you a real world example again. If you park the vehicle you drove here today and you never come back to it, it's going to fall to ruin. Okay, it's going to die. It's going to rust down. It's going to lock up. It's going to sit there. Not only this, but vehicles and equipment have become more complex, not less, down through time. And this is a direct result of human intervention in the design and working of the creations that we have created. We started out with steam engines, and now we have that stuff that we operate with touch screen. Who in their ever loving right mind thought one day you would poke a screen and it would do whatever you wanted it to do? And here we are. A cable shovel powered by steam did not evolve into a Komatsu or a cat face shovel in a strip mine. Okay? The steam engines that they used to dig the Panama Canal did not fall in love, get married, have children, and eventually they became face shovels in a strip mine running on electricity and hydraulics. It didn't. I hope it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Someone with a mind and talent designed the first and all others after, and in all this, what's to be seen? What's the sum of the matter? We look for miracles to prove the existence of God. We demand that He, the Creator of all, show Himself to the created for our approval. And that is madness. That is absurd. God is God, and He has no obligation to do anything whatsoever. We look for exceptions, things in creation that must be fixed, when a true God, our God, does not have this failing. He designed perfection, and it works perfectly, working to its appointed end. I say, and I think it was, that the absence of outright meddling in the mechanism of our world shows forth a God of such power that He does not need to correct or interfere with what He has made. And in this, I see a wonder, because He came to us in like fashion as us, lived among us, and for the redemption of our sins. He did not violate the universe. He came of a virgin, but born naturally, lived a sinless life, where existing as the offscouring of mankind, laid down His life for me and all His own, then made a mockery of death, showing the way that we should follow. And in this we see that He is God, the living God. For He designed everything, He made everything, and came into the world He made for the purpose of saving those whom He be pleased to save out of His world, and He did it while upholding this world. Consider that. And I close with this thought. Thoughts. If you're here today and you tell me, and if you listen online, and you tell me that you cannot see God, I'm going to tell you that you are a liar. You are lying to me, you're lying to whoever you speak to, and you are lying to yourself. Lying to yourself being the worst of all. It is not that you cannot see God. It is not that any human being cannot see God. It is that we do not want to see God. He is manifest in everything we behold. His fingerprints, His signature is on the very ground we walk on. And I say today that if you're here lost, you have seen that He is. And therefore you must seek His will concerning yourself. If you fail to seek the God that you can see so abundantly in creation, you will be held guilty, and you will spend eternity in hellfire and condemnation and damnation, because you saw the evidence that He is. You saw His evidence, yet you failed to seek Him, and you have failed to seek His will for you. There will not one human being be able to stand and tell God, I did not know, I could not see any example or any evidence that you existed, because it is in front of us. It is not that we cannot see, it is that we do not want to see. And I close with that. Brother Roger, if you would come.